Welcome back to the Pilates Vitamin series. Today we're doing a couple of rotator cuff exercises that are meant to help organize the shoulder girdle. It's actually very difficult to center the humeral head in the socket and then organize the shoulder blade on the rib cage for that weight to then be distributed down your arm. So what I want to do is grab a couple of weights, soup cans or water bottles, 2-pound weights, 3-pound weights are all good. Grab a couple of weights, come onto your back, and let's start to organize the shoulder girdle. Now, as I mentioned, the shoulder girdle is not just your shoulder joint where your upper arm bone meets your scapula. It's where your scapula meets your rib cage as well, and where your scapula meets your collarbone, and where your collarbone meets your sternum. So all 4 of those joints need to be organized. Try and let your tailbone drop into neutral, your rib cage find way into the mat, and then take your elbows out to a goalpost position with your wrist straight, which means that the center of your wrist should be middle finger right in line with the elbow, the eye of your elbow, so that you're not deviated towards your thumb or towards your pinky finger and not too flexed forward or extended back. So nice and straight, just like you've got a wrist brace on, and then out to that goalpost position. Now, first thing I want you to do is spread your shoulder blades wide so you can get your rib cage down on the ground, and then try and roll your upper arm bone back in the socket without pinching your shoulder blades together or lifting your ribs up. So the first exercise will help you to feel that. See if you can let your arms rotate back with the weights, with the soup cans, and let that help the upper arm bone roll back in the socket. Again, without pinching the shoulder blade in or popping the ribs up, and then slowly return the weights back forward to the beginning position. So just finding that a couple of times, the upper arm bone rotating back to move the weights without changing the shoulder blade, and then returning the hands back. Keep going. Let's do about 5 or 6 of these. Make sure you're not gripping the weights too hard. Make sure you're not tucking your tail in an effort to drop your ribs. And use your breath relieving your neck of some tension. We'll maybe do 1 more to find that rotating back of the upper arm bone, and then return. Now take this the opposite direction, palms down towards the way of your hips or your heels, and try not to let that pull the whole upper arm bone forward. This is not about how far down you go with your hand, it's about how far back you can stay with the upper arm bone. But as you plug that upper arm bone in, don't let it push your ribs up or change too much of your hand position. So we're trying to internally rotate against a neutral, stable scapula. Down towards the floor while rotating the upper arm bone back. Keep those scapula wide behind you and return. Make sure you're not pushing your chin towards your chest. Keep it a little loose and your throat soft. Making sure you keep breathing. The other thing to check for here is that your elbow isn't bending further towards your rib cage or further away from you. It's staying at that 90-degree angle and your wrist isn't breaking. So all of these things, it's easier to move than your actual upper arm bone in the socket. So do as many as you need to actually find that upper arm bone rotating without anything else following suit. Maybe 1 or 2 more. Checking in with your rib cage. Reaching out through your elbows and wide through your collarbones. That can really help by opening up your collarbones and returning back. Now stretch the arms to the ceiling. Let your biceps lengthen by punching the arms up, but also let them lengthen by dropping down more into the shoulder girdle so that you're settled heavy on the mat with the shoulders. And then broaden your scapula and your collarbones without lifting your rib cage or squeezing further back. And then start to reach the arms back overhead. And it's the same dynamic of kicking the elbow, the bicep straight as you plug and pull down with the upper arm bone into the socket. And then slowly return. It's easy here to let the shoulder blades go up. Of course, many of us know not to do that. But also trying to keep your shoulder blades wide behind you and your ribs drop down as you find that drop of the shoulder blade away from your ear. So it's not just about pulling your shoulders down your back. It's about keeping your shoulder blades in line with your rib cage. Wrists are nice and straight, and keeping your neck, throat soft. Exhale as you return. Make sure you're not tucking in your tail. All these things like to cheat. The most simple of exercises require so much detail. Last time, exhale to return. Now go back about halfway of what you had. Holding that position, make sure you're long in your elbow. Reach out through your hands into the cans and back into your shoulder joint at the same time. Bend your elbows. Your elbows will stay narrow. They're not going to go out, so just like you're going to cover your ears. And then stretch the elbows back straight again, keeping that plug in of the upper arm bone. Bending the elbows, wrists stay incorporated. Exhale as you straighten, lengthening the biceps in two directions. Back into the shoulder joint and out into the hand. Exhale as you lengthen. It's like a little tricep work, but the important part here is that your upper arm bones stay congruent with your shoulder blade and your ribs stay attached to the ground. Exhale as you straighten out. Wide through the collarbones, soft through the neck. Do about 7 or 8 of these at your own pace, checking in with the wrists every once in a while. And once you've completed that set, keep the arms lengthened and return them all the way back down by your sides. You can lose the weights, bring yourself up to a seated position, and just feel what that feels like in your shoulder girdle. Hopefully that helps you feel a little broader and a little more rested on your rib cage versus hanging from your neck. Thanks so much, guys. See you again tomorrow.